Welcome to Shatter.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. The dining room was quiet, too quiet. We didn't talk much during dinner again. Same lifeless chicken. Dry. Unseasoned. Just like the silence between us. It wasn't about the food. It hadn't been for months. She waited until I finished chewing, wiped my mouth with a napkin. That's when she slid it across the table in envelope. Smooth. Intentional. Like she'd practiced the gesture in her mind 100 times. I didn't touch it. Not right away. She leaned back, arms crossed, watching me. Her face wasn't nervous. Wasn't apologetic. Just calm. Composed. That smug, controlled look of someone who thinks they're 2 steps ahead. Then she said it. Flat. Measured. I want a divorce. No build-up. No dramatics. Like she was ordering coffee. I looked down at the envelope. It was unsealed. She wanted me to open it. So I did. The papers were crisp. Neat. Her name first on every page. Of course. She'd consulted someone. She'd planned this. Strategic. Subtle. No outrageous demands. Just enough to look fair. She expected a reaction. Resistance. A raised voice. Maybe a plea. A question. Why now? What happened? I didn't give her one. I reached for the pen we used to pay bills with, left-handed, like always. Signed every line. No scribbles. No hesitation. When I was done, I slid the envelope back across the table and looked at her. And that's when it happened. The flicker. It lasted less than a second. Confusion. Not anger. Not regret. Just disruption. The playbook didn't prepare her for this. She expected me to break. To argue. To make her feel something. She wanted to explain. Say how she tried. That I wasn't exciting enough. Not ambitious. That she needed more. That she deserved more. But I stayed silent. I stood, grabbed my jacket from the hook by the door. I'll be out for a while, I said. Her face didn't move. But her body did, just a little. She sat up straighter. Shoulders tense. Like she was waiting for the explosion that never came. I stepped outside. The March air was colder than expected. Pretending to be spring, but still biting. I walked. Block after block, letting the quiet do its work. 3 weeks ago, she'd stood in the hallway, arms folded, and told me I lacked ambition, that I was comfortable just existing. I remember saying, I work. I come home. I don't cheat. Thought that counted for something. Apparently, it didn't. She used to say she wanted peace, that she needed stability. I built a life around that. Routine. Consistency. Every morning coffee, every silent dinner, built for her. But peace bored her now. She wanted chaos again. Wanted to be chased. And I stopped running. It wasn't resentment. Not even sadness. Just clarity. I had already left her, emotionally, mentally, long before she found the courage to leave first. So when she handed me that envelope, she thought she was in control. She didn't realize I had stopped showing up a long time ago. Tomorrow, I'll pack. For bags. A lockbox from the back of the closet. She'll still be asleep. Or pretending to be. Either way, I won't say goodbye. No note. No drama. Just silence. Because the real performance only works if the other person reacts. And I was done performing. I started early the next morning. She was still upstairs, wrapped in those sheets she used to beg me into. Now they were just linen and silence. I didn't look back as I opened the closet and pulled the lockbox out from behind the winter coats. For duffel bags. Already half-packed. I didn't rush. The quiet was methodical. Surgical. The house felt different in the morning light. Not warmer, just more honest. No illusions. No performance. Just the echo of someone who thought she was untouchable. By the time she came down, I was gone. I didn't leave a note. Didn't text. No last words. I wasn't disappearing. I was exiting. I moved into a rental on the edge of the city. Month to month. Nothing personal. White walls. Cheap art. A mattress without a past. Just enough space to breathe. I didn't unpack much. Just what I needed. A few clothes. A laptop. The folder. The folder came 2 nights later. It was Amanda who handed it to me. Her cousin. Always quiet at family gatherings, always watching. She met me at a bar with cracked leather booths and a jukebox that still worked. We didn't talk much. She slid the folder across the table. I steady. Thought you might want to see this, she said. I didn't open it then. Just nodded. She didn't wait for thanks. Just stood and left. Back at the rental, I opened it under the yellow kitchen light. Emails. Screenshots. Photos. Some printed, Some scribbled notes. Enough to draw lines between events I'd ignored. Messages exchanged during girls' nights. Reservations made under fake names. One photo of her in a cafe leaning across the table, her hand resting on his wrist like it belonged there. The man, David. Of course. I'd seen him once at one of her office parties. The guy with the too white smile and the expensive blazer. The kind who made everyone laugh just a little too loud. I'd shaken his hand. I remember that. Now it felt like shaking hands with a thief. But I didn't get angry. I didn't even raise my voice. Instead, I got strategic. While she thought I was licking wounds, I was making moves. I called Thomas, my financial advisor. Told him I wanted everything rerouted. Frozen. Separated. Anything that still had her name on it, cleared or cut off. I wasn't just leaving. I was erasing the access. Next was our mutual friend circle. I didn't say anything outright. Just started planting seeds. Quiet, factual seeds. Let them do the math. Let them notice the silence from my end and the sudden increase in her selfies. The filtered kind. The kind with forced captions about finding peace and new beginnings. She wanted to be seen as the brave one. The woman who chose herself. But I wasn't chasing her narrative anymore. I was dismantling it. Then came the whisper. A message from someone anonymous. No subject line. Just a sentence. He was never loyal to you. Not then. Not now. Attached was a photo. Her. David. Same spot, different day. Same hand on his wrist. Her eyes shining like she just won something. She thought she was trading up. What she didn't know, David wasn't who he said he was. I checked. Deep. Found court records. Former investors. A small claims lawsuit over unpaid debts. A real mess wrapped in designer cologne. She didn't leave to find herself. She left because she thought someone else would catch her. The problem is David wasn't planning to catch anyone. Just pass the time. I didn't confront her. I didn't warn her. I just watched. Because sometimes silence isn't retreat. It's recon. And mine was just getting started. 3 days into the silence, she tried. It started subtly, an old photo liked on social media. One of us at the lake. Then a message, vague and hollow. Hope you're okay. I left it unread. The version of me she knew would have replied. Would have asked questions. Would have begged for context. This version stayed quiet. She didn't know I had everything. Every message. Every detail. Amanda's folder wasn't the only source. I went deeper. Pulled bank records. Cross-reference dates. Hotel transactions. Uber receipts. A digital trail of betrayal hidden under convenience. The truth wasn't loud. It was systematic. A pattern of lies dressed up as girls' nights, overtime, and self-care weekends. I didn't need to confront her. The facts did all the talking. There was one transaction that stood out. A flight. One way. Booked under a different name, but the billing address matched ours. She didn't just visit him. She planned a life. A quiet getaway. A possible reset in case he proved worthy. That's when I felt the shift. Not pain. Not even anger. Just clarity. She was never undecided. She was calculating. She didn't want to choose, she wanted a fallback. And I had played that role long enough. I scheduled a meeting with my attorney. He was efficient. Sharp. No questions about motives, just logistics. We adjusted the paperwork. Removed concessions. Finalized financial protections. My signature went on every page. Her name became just another printed word. My attorney glanced at me and said, "You sure about no confrontation?" I nodded. She doesn't get the satisfaction of a fight. I walked out of that office lighter. Then I made one more call. A quiet one. There was a man named Reed. He used to run background for a firm that handled corporate sabotage. Quiet guy. No drama, just data. I gave him David's name. Within 48 hours, I had the file. The man she bet on had 3 aliases, 2 shuttered businesses, and 1 pending investigation. The irony? She left for someone who made me look like the upgrade. I forwarded the folder to Amanda. No commentary. Just the truth. Later that evening, Amanda replied. Just one sentence. She won't see it coming. And that's when it clicked. She thought I was frozen. That I was still sitting in that house, waiting. Mourning. Breaking. But I wasn't. I was strategizing. Because leaving without warning isn't cowardice. It's control. And silence? It's not weakness. It's preparation. The next move was simple. Vanish. No theatrics. No grand exits. Just a slow erasure. One account after another. Bank logins scrubbed. Streaming passwords changed. Shared calendars deleted. My name disappeared from our old joint utilities, and the forwarding address led nowhere she'd recognize. I didn't block her. That would have been a statement. Instead, I became air. She reached out again 5 days after the last message, this time with more urgency. A longer text. Apologies wrapped in nostalgia. I keep thinking about our Sunday mornings. I read it once, then archived it. No reply. No reaction. She was casting bait, hoping the silence would crack me open. But silence had become my strength. By the 7th day, I shut off my phone. Not forever, just long enough. Long enough for her to realize she no longer had access. I didn't go far. I just stopped being reachable. While she spiraled, I started rebuilding. There's something therapeutic about starting over in a space that isn't yours. I didn't decorate the rental, didn't make it feel like home. I didn't want home. I wanted distance. I wanted sterile, clean, temporary. Most nights, I didn't sleep much. Not because I was haunted, because I was planning. See, while she was wondering why I wasn't crawling back, David's name started to make quiet rounds. Not from me, never from me. Just nudges. A conversation with someone in her company's HR. A soft tip to a mutual friend who happened to be in finance. No lies, no drama. Just redirections. Real information. Enough to make his name heavy. It worked. 2 days later, Amanda texted me again. She's panicking. Apparently, David had started pulling back. Fewer texts. Shorter calls. Less public appearances. The man who once made her feel like a prize now treated her like a memory. Predictable. Because men like him don't invest. They borrow. And when interest gets too high, they disappear. The same way I had. But the difference was, I wasn't leaving because I couldn't handle pain. I was leaving because I refused to give her a second chance to break something she'd already shattered. She wasn't prepared for that. She didn't know how to grieve something she thought she still owned. The power had shifted. Not in anger. Not in revenge. Just in presence. Or rather, the lack of it. The absence became louder than any scream. And absence has weight when you've built your world around being noticed. Her post slowed down. The captions lost their shine. Friends started to fade. Even Amanda stopped replying to her messages. I wasn't the only one pulling away. And the more the world went quiet, the more she started to see what she'd traded. She hadn't left for love. She'd left for the illusion of more. And now that illusion had vanished. Just like me. The first time I saw David again, it wasn't in person. It was in a forwarded message. One of Amanda's contacts, someone buried in the background noise of social media and startup gossip, sent a photo. David. A conference in Seattle. Smiling wide. Hand extended to shake with a man whose funding portfolio made headlines last quarter. But the caption underneath was what caught my eye. Be careful who you back. Not everyone's past is as clean as their pitch deck. The whispers had begun. That's all I needed. Not a storm. Just a seed. I didn't have to fabricate anything. All I had to do was redirect attention. The truth, when revealed in the right moment, lands harder than any accusation. I remembered Ellis, an old investor from our early days. He'd backed our company when no one else did. When Jason, my old business partner, decided he was done, Ellis had been the one to warn me quietly. Told me, people like him don't burn out. They burn bridges. Turned out he was right. I made the call. Ellis picked up after the second ring. Hesitant at first, until he heard my name. Then his tone shifted. He remembered. We talked for 20 minutes. About David. About her. About optics. I'm not looking to ruin him, I said. Just remind people who they're dealing with. Ellis didn't ask questions. Just said, leave it to me. That was enough. 2 days later, David's latest pitch didn't land. A group of mid-level investors pulled interest. Quietly. No press. Just caution. His circle started to shrink. Not dramatically. Strategically. Enough for him to feel it. Amanda let it slip that her cousin was starting to notice. The phone call slowed. The texts came later and later. His plans for the future turned into excuses about timing. Uncertainty. Burnout. She tried to ignore it. Pretend she was in control. But even she knew the story was slipping. And then, on a Wednesday night, she messaged again. No apology. No explanation. Just 3 words. Can we talk? I let it sit for 2 days. Then opened it. Not to reply. Just to let her know I saw it. Letting someone know they've been seen, but not responded to? It leaves a vacuum. A silence they don't know how to fill. And she was already drowning in silence. That weekend, I met with my attorney again. We finalized the dissolution of the last joint asset. one she didn't even realize I still had partial control over. A small property in her name and mine, tucked away in a neighborhood she always claimed was beneath her. She'd assumed it was hers by default. She was wrong. I sold my share. Quietly. Cleanly. A move she wouldn't see coming until the paperwork landed. No warning. No fight. Just precision. Because this wasn't about payback. It was about positioning. Let her wonder what else I'd let go without letting her know. Let her feel the ground shifting without being able to stop it. That's when I understood something. She didn't leave because she was unhappy. She left because she believed I'd never leave her. She was wrong. And now the silence wasn't mine anymore. It was hers. It didn't take long for the cracks to reach the surface. People started noticing. Not because I told them. I didn't need to. She did it for me, unintentionally. Her posts changed. The curated confidence began to fray at the edges. Gone were the filtered brunch pictures and the philosophical quotes about growth. What replaced them was silence. Then a meme repost. Then a story of an empty wine glass and a song lyric about regret. The kind of digital breadcrumb trail that doesn't say, I'm fine. It says, I'm unraveling. Mutual friends started messaging me. Not all at once. Just one at a time. A check-in here. A curious, did you hear about there? I never engaged. Never offered my side. Because the best way to reveal someone's truth is to say nothing at all. I went to a gathering 2 weeks after the property sale. Nothing major. Just a small event hosted by a colleague. A few faces I hadn't seen in a while. When I walked in, people looked at me differently. Like they expected something broken. Something bitter. But I wasn't either of those things. I was composed. Quiet. Present. Someone pulled me aside. Asked how I was holding up. I just said, better than I've been in years. That was enough. Because perception is power. And in that moment, I saw the shift. Her story, once carefully crafted, had started to cave in. The version of events she sold, the tired, unappreciated wife walking away from a cold marriage, no longer had weight. The silence exposed it. My silence. Amanda messaged again. She's starting to lose people. Not just romantically. Socially. Slowly. The women who once cheered her on were quiet now. The group chats dull. The invitations fewer. Even her family had stopped echoing her narrative. They'd seen the emails. Amanda made sure of that. Not out of spite. Out of honesty. Because even the quiet ones get tired of being lied to. And David? He was gone. No formal goodbye. No explanation. Just vanished. Apparently, one of his investors got wind of the whispers and pulled funding. Another followed. His latest launch stalled. Suddenly, he wasn't charming. He was expensive. And when charm turns costly, people walk. Just like he did. She reached out again. This time a voice message. I didn't play it. Just stared at the waveform. Her voice used to be something I looked forward to. Now it felt like noise I'd already memorized. Instead, I spent the evening cleaning my rental. Not out of need. Out of ritual. There's something final about removing dust from a place you don't plan to stay in. I poured a drink. Sat by the window. Watched as the city moved on, unaware. And that's when I realized. She wasn't the one who left. I was. She may have signed the papers first. May have rehearsed her exit. But the truth is, I'd been preparing for longer than she knew. And now she was the one left reading silence like scripture. Hoping for a reply that wasn't coming. Because sometimes, the most honest thing you can say is nothing. I didn't answer her message. Not the voice note. Not the text that followed. Not the second attempt that came 4 days later. She had switched tactics. Less confidence. More softness. But it didn't matter. That version of me, the one who'd respond just because she reached out, didn't exist anymore. She didn't understand that absence isn't just distance, it's redefinition. My world kept moving, and hers started shrinking. I heard from Amanda again. Brief update. Her cousin had reached out, again, this time to apologize. But Amanda wasn't interested in reconciliation. She'd seen too much. She'd watched the manipulation too long to pretend it was confusion. She told me her words were simple. He gave you peace. You turned it into silence. It stuck with me. Because that's what it had always been. I didn't walk away to make a point. I walked away because the weight of staying wasn't mine to carry anymore. The silence didn't just expose her. It revealed me. It showed who I was when I wasn't trying to keep something alive that had already died. I went back to the gym. Not for transformation. For routine. Movement. Focus. The familiar scent of iron and rubber. My body remembered what it felt like to be mine. I ran in the mornings, long before the city stirred. Coffee afterward, black and burning. I read more, clean more, spoke less. And still, she kept trying. A third message. A fourth. Then a call. Blocked number. I let it ring. Then came the letter. Handwritten. 5 pages. Folded, creased, signed. I read the first line, then set it aside. Not out of cruelty. Out of completion. Some stories don't need an epilogue. I visited a friend across the state that weekend. Someone who'd known me before her. Someone who'd watched me change. He didn't ask questions. Just handed me a beer, threw some ribs on the grill, and let me exist without explaining myself. We sat by the fire later, and he finally said it. She thought you'd fight. I nodded. He added, and you did. Just not for her. He was right. I fought for clarity. For peace. For the version of me that didn't need chaos to feel connected. I didn't win her back. I didn't want to. Because once you realize someone saw your love as a default setting, not a choice, you stop offering it. Back in the city, I finalized the last loose ends. The rental agreement. The storage unit. A few forgotten digital accounts. Then, a new lease. Smaller space. Better location. No ghosts. And in the background, she continued unraveling. Amanda said the messages stopped being about us and started being about her. How she felt lost. Unseen. Uncertain. How she missed being wanted. But that was the point. She wanted to be chased. I chose to disappear. She thought her absence would break me. But she never expected mine would erase her. It happened on a Sunday. Mid-morning. Quiet outside, no rain, no wind, just the static hum of a city in idle. I was brewing coffee when I heard the knock, 3 soft taps, like someone hoping not to be heard. I didn't move at first. I already knew who it was. There weren't many people left who would knock without texting first. I looked through the peephole. She stood there, shoulders rounded, hands tucked into the sleeves of an oversized sweater that wasn't hers. No makeup, no armor, just skin and silence. The kind of appearance that signals surrender. Not apology, just exhaustion. I opened the door. She didn't speak right away. Just blinked a few times like the light hurt. I stepped aside without a word. Let her walk into a place she hadn't touched, hadn't designed. A space I had made for myself. Not for her. She looked around, taking in the simplicity, bare walls, clean counters, no scent of shared memories. Just neutral space. She said, "It's nice." I said nothing. She sat on the edge of the armchair, not the couch. Like she didn't want to assume comfort. Her fingers twisted around each other as she finally spoke. I didn't come to fight. I didn't respond. Didn't nod. I just waited. I made a mistake, she said. David wasn't what I thought. None of this is. Still, I said nothing. She looked down at her hands. I thought you'd stop me, she admitted. I thought you'd say something that night. That you'd fight. That was her real truth. She hadn't come for reconciliation. She came to rerun the moment where I let her go. Hoping this time I'd play my role differently. I didn't. Instead, I walked to the table and picked up an envelope I'd prepared days ago. Not because I expected her, but because I understood closure isn't always verbal. I handed it to her. She opened it slowly, I scanning each line. The forwarded emails. The screenshots. The itinerary. The message from Amanda. The photo of her hand on David's wrist. She froze. You knew, she said. I nodded. For how long? Long enough. She stared at the paper. Why didn't you say anything? My voice was quiet. Because you were already gone. I just let you walk first. She folded the paper, but her fingers were trembling now. I thought you'd fight for me, she repeated. I finally looked her in the eyes. I thought you'd choose me. That ended it. No raised voices. No insults. No begging. Just truth, simple and unpolished. She didn't cry. She didn't storm out. She just sat there for a moment longer, gripping the envelope like it weighed more than paper should. Then she stood, walked to the door, paused. Her eyes searched mine one last time. But I had nothing left to give. So I said, take care of yourself. She blinked, swallowed. Then she left. The door clicked behind her. Soft. Final. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel abandoned. I felt free. The next morning, I made an appointment with my accountant. No drama. Just logistics. We reviewed the final documents. One last tie that connected us financially. A property investment she thought she controlled. One oversight in the divorce filings meant my name still carried weight. She hadn't noticed. She never checked the details she assumed were hers. So I ended it. Sold my portion. Cleanly. Legally. Quietly. No demands. No confrontation, just precision. Her lawyer called 2 days later. Left a message. Polite, but firm. She was uncomfortable with the outcome. I didn't return the call. I didn't owe explanations for something she failed to protect. That was her pattern, expecting to own the aftermath without holding any of the damage. A week later, I boarded a flight. Not to run, to reset. New city, new role. A consulting job that didn't care about my past. A loft with high windows, no photos, and space that felt mine. Not shared, not negotiated. Just mine. I didn't tell anyone except Amanda. She replied with one word. Good. That was it. No ceremony. No advice. Just acknowledgement. Amanda had always known how to speak in silences. On the flight, I deleted our last thread of messages. Not out of bitterness. Out of clarity. Some connections deserve to fade. Others require disconnection. Back on the ground, I unpacked only what I needed. 3 boxes. A laptop. A single framed photo. Me and my brother on a fishing trip, long before all of this. Before I lost parts of myself trying to be enough for someone who never stopped measuring. Then, the texts started again. Not many, but enough. Each one smaller than the last. Are you okay? Can we talk? Please. I never answered. Not because I hated her. Because I didn't. That was the real surprise. I wasn't angry anymore. Just indifferent. And indifference is worse than rage, because it doesn't leave room for reconciliation. It means the chapter didn't end with pain. It ended with nothing left. Amanda updated me once more. She's unraveling. David had vanished completely. Cut contact after the funding talks collapsed. Investors had backed out. His charm had expired. She called it a misunderstanding. He called it bad timing. But everyone knew what it was. He wasn't staying. He never intended to. And she was left with the echo of promises that never planned to keep her. A ghost of a man who used her for the stage she built out of our ruins. She told Amanda she wanted to fix things. Said, I didn't expect to lose both of them. That's the thing about control. Once you think you own it, you stop protecting it. She thought she had time. She thought I'd wait. But I didn't wait. I walked. And the silence she once used as a weapon, now it lived in her apartment. In her bed. In her inbox. And it sounded exactly like everything she threw away. I saw her one more time. Not in person. A photo someone posted from an old friend's birthday gathering. She stood in the background, holding a drink, mid-laugh, but it didn't look real. It looked practiced. The kind of laugh people use when they're trying to prove they're still okay. She had that posture again, shoulders lifted, arms close to her body, eyes scanning the room like she was waiting for someone to show up. But I wasn't in that room anymore. I never would be again. By then, my life had shifted so far from her orbit that she didn't know where to look for it. I'd made new routines, new people. I didn't explain myself, didn't broadcast the transformation. I just lived it. And that silence? It turned into strength. Because silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's the presence of resolve. Amanda messaged once more. Just said, she asked if you'd ever talk to her again. I didn't reply. That wasn't a conversation. That was a hope. And I wasn't anyone's hope anymore. She thought the ending would be loud. Thought there'd be fire, slamming doors, maybe one last desperate kiss. But endings don't need explosions. Some of them just need a closed door that never opens again. The truth is, I didn't hate her. She simply became irrelevant to the story I was writing next. I didn't need closure. I'd created it. Not in a letter, not in a fight, but in every decision I made that didn't include her. I started volunteering again, something I hadn't done in years. Helped build a community project in the city. Spoke on a panel about resilience. People assumed I'd been through something heavy. I just said, I stopped mistaking sacrifice for love. That was all they needed to hear. That was all I needed to believe. I walked by a bookstore one evening and saw a novel in the window. Its title caught me. A line that stayed with me for weeks. The silence between chapters is where the character becomes someone new. That was me. She wasn't the villain. And I wasn't the hero. We were just two people who stopped listening to each other's silence. But I listened to mine. And in that quiet, I found direction. She reached out one final time. No subject. Just 2 words. I'm sorry. I read it once. Then deleted it. Not in anger. But because some apologies don't belong in your inbox. They belong in the past. A few days later, I changed my number. Not to hide. To finish. To make the break complete. She wanted to be chased. She needed someone to fall apart for her. But I didn't fall apart. I stepped out of the fire and never looked back. Some men raised their voice. I raised my standard. And that was the difference. Because when you finally walk away without a sound, the only thing louder than your silence is her regret. What would you have done in my place? If the story hit you, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe. It only gets stronger from here.